Meanwhile, it's mayhem in the Maldives. The day after President Abdullah Yameen declared a state of emergency in the country, he remains defiant. Addressing the nation today, Yameen said the emergency decree is to investigate the plot of a coup from the Supreme Court ruling. A shock ruling from the court last week ordering the release of top opposition politicians has triggered a furious response from President Yameen. He said the Supreme Court should not be subject to pressure from other state powers and that the president should have full authority, that is himself, he should have full authority including over the judiciary. He also said that he will address any Supreme Court ruling that erodes democracy. Later in the evening, the Maldives government issued a lengthy statement slamming the Supreme Court order, saying, and I quote, "The Supreme Court attempted to subvert the government and hold hostage the work of the government by obstructing the work of the executive in carrying out its constitutional mandate and legal duties and perverted the course of justice. The president was forced to declare a state of emergency to ensure the smooth running of the state as is mandated to him, and after exhausting all venues available to him legally and protocol-wise to ease out the situation." Hours after declaring a state of emergency for 15 days, President Yameen sent soldiers to storm the court and arrest judges, including Chief Justice Abdullah Saeed. The arrested judges were sent to a detention centre outside Malé. Maldives police also detained Yameen's estranged half-brother and former President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom, who had sided with the main opposition. Tension has gripped capital Malé as opposition activists hit the streets protesting against the imposition of the emergency. The United Nations and several countries have urged the Maldives government to respect the court order. All eyes now on Yameen's predecessor, Mohammad Nasheed, who remains in exile in Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo. Mohammad Nasheed has urged India to send its envoy, backed by the military, to secure the release of all political detainees and judges. He's also asked the US to stop all financial transactions of Maldives regime leaders going through American banks. Earlier today, he tweeted to say, and I'm quoting again, "On behalf of the Maldivian people, we humbly request India to send an envoy, backed by its military, to release judges and political detainees, including President Gayoom. We request a physical presence and the US to stop all financial transactions of Maldives regime leaders going through US banks." He's one of the many leaders in the Maldivian opposition urging India to intervene. The government of India has been issuing statements, and this is the latest that it has issued on the situation in the Maldives. I'm quoting from that statement. "We're disturbed by the declaration of a state of emergency in the Maldives following the refusal of the government to abide by the unanimous ruling of the full bench of the Supreme Court and also by the suspension of constitutional rights of the people of the Maldives. The arrest of the Supreme Court Chief Justice and political figures are also reasons for concern." Precious little, you would say. India has been watching closely and expressing concern for a while now. Will it move beyond that? Are Maldivian President Yameen's actions the result of desperation? With elections due in September this year, Yameen needed to ensure the opposition was steamrolled into submission. Here's a look at what could be going on in the island nation.
There is a view in Delhi that the Maldivian President Abdullah Yameen's actions suggest he's batting on a weak wicket. This view holds that Yameen's actions have been driven by the fact that elections are due in September and he stands a good chance of losing. Yameen is not a popular figure in his country, and the manner in which he emerged president in 2013 in a second round of polling where he defeated Mohammad Nasheed narrowly has been widely debated. This view holds that President Yameen has done what he has done to ensure there's no worthwhile opposition against him in September. Do recall that Nasheed remains in exile in Sri Lanka and cannot return until his conviction in 2013 on trumped-up charges of terrorism are overturned. With Yameen in the saddle, there's no chance of the verdict being put aside, which means Nasheed cannot return and contest the elections. Yameen has been quick to get the police on his side, although he had to sack 2 police chiefs before the third agreed to carry out his orders. Will the police stand by him in the event of mass unrest? Not clear, but the army's backing of Yameen bears scrutiny. The Maldivian National Defence Force of about 5,000 personnel has close ties with Pakistan. Officers and men are sent to Pakistan for training. There are joint exercises. In 2014, there was an agreement for making arms and ammunition in the Maldives. There was reference to assembling the Pakistani JF-17 fighter and the Super Mushak trainer in the Maldives. China's entry into the Maldives may have been facilitated by Pakistan, its iron brother. The free trade agreement signed by the two countries last year was not even debated. There's suspicion that China's expanding commercial presence in the Maldives is courtesy President Yameen, who may have benefited in various ways. But China has steered clear of any overt expressions of support for Yameen. It is primarily concerned with protecting its economic investments in the Maldives that are expected to generate strategic spin-offs before long. Bureau Report, WION.
The Maldivians have been making fervent appeals to India and India alone to come to their rescue. In response, New Delhi has been guarded. The appeals are now expanding to address other countries. Here's why India must intervene and make a move now.
At the root of the Maldives' worst crisis is its current president, Abdullah Yameen. And it can be said with certainty that no individual, no matter in how powerful an office, could hold his entire country at ransom unless he has the backing and the support of someone or something very powerful. Media across the world have reported in depth about Mr. Yameen's two closest allies, the Wahhabi Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the People's Republic of China. The Maldivian opposition has united like never before. Former foes have joined hands to save their country from spiraling out of control and joining the ranks of nations that are viewed as rogue states under ruthless dictators such as North Korea. The country's first democratically elected president, Mohammad Nasheed, is in exile. For years, Mr. Nasheed has been appealing to big neighbour India to help. Even the judges of Maldives Supreme Court, who are at the heart of this crisis, have directed their urgent pleas to India, which has often come to the rescue of the Maldives in the past. But India is playing its usual cautious game of wait and watch. That's understandable. India bashing is a favourite pastime across South Asia. The big brother is not keen on now being abused as the big bully too. New Delhi is unlikely to go for unilateral military intervention. Perhaps sensing that, an appeal from the oppositional Maldivians was subtly reworded. A press statement released late in the night after troops stormed Male's Supreme Court, the Maldivian Democratic Party in exile issued a statement. It reads, and I quote, "President Nasheed continues to engage with concerned international partners, including India and other neighbouring countries, seeking resolution to the ongoing crisis and urges India to act swiftly." So who are the other neighbouring countries, that is those who share a South Asian cousinhood with the Maldives? And who are the concerned international partners from outside the South Asia region that the statement refers to? China, the United States and the European Union have all expressed concern at the events. But while the US and the EU have demanded that Mr. Yameen respect his Supreme Court and uphold democracy, China has merely issued a travel advisory to its citizens. India and Sri Lanka have reacted along the same lines as the Western nations. Till the time of airing this report, Pakistan has remained silent. The Maldives is part of China's multi-billion-dollar One Belt, One Road initiative. But the project is under fire in the many nations it touches across the Indian Ocean all the way up to Africa. Uppermost on China's mind will be protection of its investments and assets in the Maldives. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, has a new ruler, Prince Salman. Observers say that Riyadh is no longer as close to President Yameen as earlier. Now, what about Pakistan? The biggest Muslim nation in the SAARC community, the community of South Asian nations, has the second largest global population of Muslims. President Yameen and ousted Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif met in 2017 and signed several bilateral agreements. Pakistan and President Yameen share a mutual friend too, that is China. So why has Pakistan not said a word about the standoff so far? What's brewing? Pakistan's international image is down and out. Being seen as the author of a diplomatic grand gesture, even if a compromise with President Yameen will give the country with the reputation of being a nursery for terrorists a tremendous boost. China cannot intervene directly in the Maldives without incurring even more mistrust than it already has through its controversial debt for development policies in the Indian Ocean. But it can certainly use the South Asian genetics of its close ally Pakistan as the front face of any initiative. New Delhi must act, and act fast. To avoid the label of big bully, India too can proceed in an international collective effort. On the Maldives, the United States and India, for instance, are on the same page. As part of the newly formed Quad, they can now share a major diplomatic success in averting a major crisis in the Indian Ocean region. Padma Rao, WION.
The United States has condemned it, and so has Australia. The United Nations has expressed concern, and so have Canada and even India. The world is watching the Maldives and want President Yameen to respect the Supreme Court verdict, release 9 members of parliament arrested on reportedly trumped-up charges, and practically pave the way for the return of the single largest opposition Maldivian Democratic Party, whose leaders remain in exile. After the Supreme Court verdict, President Yameen made his moves. At first, rapidly. 2 legislators who had been out of the country as events unfolded were arrested at the airport as soon as they arrived. But some hours later, they were released. Then there was a dramatic escalation. Websites were pulled down. Journalists threatened. The judges of the Supreme Court, including its Chief Justice, reportedly received death threats. The judges spent the night inside the Supreme Court, and as predicted, troops loyal to President Yameen marched into the building at night. Once again, 2 of them were arrested. Later, in the same night, the situation grew even more dramatic. Police and troops surrounded the residence of former President WION Gravitas. In the presence of his daughter and other family members, the frail 80-year-old, who is said to be undergoing periodic treatment in the Indian city of Bangalore, was taken into custody on vague charges of bribery. Mr. Gravitas is the current president, Yameen's half-brother, but associates of Mr. Yameen have disclosed that there is no love lost between the 2 men. The story gets even stranger. Just hours after the midnight drama, there was a release, that of Faris Maumoon. There are 2 aspects to this release, and they have set a cat among the pigeons in the Maldives. Faris Maumoon is one of the 9 legislators the Supreme Court's verdict has ordered the release of. He was in jail on charges of reported corruption. But Faris Maumoon just happens to be former President WION Gravitas' eldest son. So was there a trade-off? Something along the lines of, take me into custody but release my son. President Gravitas' fellow legislators in the joint opposition dismissed the idea. There is such unity, that joint oppositional front, to topple Mr. Yameen, that they do not believe President Gravitas would have acted selfishly to have only his son released. But then why are there some releases and some arrests? Everything that President Yameen has done in reaction to the verdict up to now has been far from constitutional. So why did he not just go the whole hog and arrest everyone opposed to him? Why only some? A presidential spokesman could not explain that finer point to WION either. Listen in.
There are ongoing investigations into corruption, into bribery, and to comment on details, I think the investigative authorities will be able to comment on details. But as far as the arrests and release go, the investigations are ongoing. So inquiries will be made, and arrests will be made. Investigations will continue.
The million-dollar question, what is President Yameen up to? Is he trying to fracture the united opposition through the move to arrest a father but release the son? Is support for President Yameen, wherever that may be coming from, dwindling even as pressure from the international community piles up? For now, the Maldives president may not give 2 hoots about what the world thinks of him, but he will most certainly want both the police and the armed forces on his side, and that, given the reported fissures within those organizations, may not be a privilege he enjoys for much longer.